Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified Podcast, your home for all things Washington Commanders. It's a special evening tonight. We got Eric Galko, the Director of Football Ops and Player Personnel of the East-West Shrine Bowl. And if you don't know, Tom Brady, Walter Payton, Lawrence Taylor, John Elway, Gale Sayers, Jimmy Garoppolo, and more played in this game. So this game is obviously important. It is heavily impactful. What's up, Eric? How's it going?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm excited. It's the draft was a little while ago. I'm excited to see. I know the rookies report here pretty soon, and you got a couple rookies that played in the Shrine Bowl and a couple guys that played 2 years ago too. So I'm fired to talk to you guys tonight.
Yeah. No, that's great. We're excited to have you. Thank you for giving us some time. And, kind of before we get started, we start talking about some of these guys. Tell everybody a little bit, about yourself and about the Shrine Bowl and what you guys do there. Because I'm a nerd, so I follow anything draft related. So I know all about you. But in case anybody listening doesn't.
For sure. I've been I took over the Shrine Bowl as the games director 2021. So this will be my third Shrine Bowl coming up here, the 2024 Shrine Bowl. Before that, I had a cool job. I worked with the XFL under Oliver Luck from 2018 to 2020 and kind of built the XFL last time around, which was a lot of fun too. I've been working in the business for a long time, and I got a chance to kind of lead the Shrine Bowl and with the real mission of making it a best-in-class event, great for players, great for media, great for NFL team. And I think there's a real opportunity for us, at least, to make sure we're doing things in a pretty cool way and taking care of players, media alike, agents, NFL teams too. And we've had a good time. So over the last 2 years of the Shrine Bowl, we've had back-to-back record number of draft picks in the last 20 years. Yeah. First-round pick and my guy, Zay Flowers. Whole bunch of top 100 picks, including Ricky Stromberg. We'll get to him later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And continue to have a great product for all of our players. And this year we moved the game to Dallas, Frisco. And we'll get the Dallas Cowboys facility all week long. So I know the Cowboys are a little bit taboo for you guys, but can't beat the Cowboys facility all week for practice for us. So we're excited, man.
Yeah, that's true. They do have a nice facility. We hope to have a new one of our own here in the next couple of years with some big news for us coming tomorrow. But anyways, so the Shrine Bowl, it is a huge event. It's a place where players can showcase what they can do for that next level. Is there any off season for you, or is it always a constant, right? Football is now 24/7 for us, pro, college. What's downtime look like for you, or do you have any? What's your schedule like?
Yeah, so I before the Shrine Bowl, I've been consulting with teams and people in the industry for a long time. So my mind has always been being ahead of the curve. So I don't give our staff too much break off. And I think maybe this summer right now is a little bit now they're ready to go for the season. But for us, even though it's summer, even though college players don't report to camp until the end of July, early August, we've finished about 1,500 evaluations on seniors, juniors, sophomores around the country for this upcoming season too. So we'll take a little bit of a break, kind of reset a little bit, but really for us, we're trying to be aggressive. And, last year we had, for example, 15 players that weren't invited to the NFL Combine drafted that played the Shrine Bowl. And what that kind of shows is, credit to our scouts, they found guys NFL teams didn't think were that good early on in the process and kind of claimed them early too. So we stay pretty aggressive, but we're hoping to have a little bit of downtime here and kind of recharge the batteries until the season starts up here in about 7-8 weeks.
Oh, awesome. Can you talk more about that scouting process? Because there's a ton of college players. How do you guys go about your selection to get, the handful of guys that you bring into the game each year? Because I got to imagine that's a tough prospect of saying, hey, we got to choose this guy over another guy.
Yeah, it takes a long time. I think part of it is because we write up sophomores and juniors, right? It gives us a basis to not be surprised by players too often. Obviously, guys emerge a little bit, but we have a lot of internal process. We use a lot of data and analytics. I think the NFL is way behind the NBA and MLB in terms of analytics use, and we're kind of at the forefront of that. And a lot of what we do that helps us be efficient and watch the right guys. And it's been challenging the last 2 years because of COVID. We just released our Shrine Bowl 1000, our watch list, which I know 1,000 guys seems like a lot of players, but with the COVID rules and how guys can go back, it's really tough to get even to that number in the preseason. And for us as a staff, we want to make sure that we know those 1,000 players really well so that when we watch the games in season, we're watching, hey, has this guy gotten better? Is this guy healthy as opposed to starting from scratch for us? So I can go into much more detail if you guys want. We have a really finite process to make sure that when the season starts, we have all of our ducks in a row and we can evaluate. We have to evaluate pretty quickly and be efficient like that. And we got to invite players by, middle of the college seasons. We can't mess around early on in the year too often.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And that process is proven to work, right?
Yeah.
And I'm on the Shrine Bowl site, shrinebowl.com.
Yeah.
Listen to this. More than 100 players from last year's game signed with professional teams, and
Yeah.
70 made final NFL rosters last season. It
Wow.
says on average 300 East-West Shrine Bowl alumni on NFL rosters each year.
Minimum.
300. That's
Yeah.
incredible. 78 Hall of Famers have come out of this game, and 200 of these players have been named to the Collegiate Football Hall of Fame. That's outstanding. That really speaks to the level of scouting that you guys do for this process. So kudos to you.
Yeah, it'll be 99th year this year. So I've not been the games director for 99 years, but I got a heavy reputation to stay up to every year. And we've, like I said, we've broken records every year, and we're excited for next year for sure.
Before we get into the Commanders players, one thing I'm, especially with college football, with, the transfer portal, with NIL, has any of that kind of affected how you scout? You got guys moving around to different places. Maybe they're changing systems. Does that kind of affect how you see a guy? He may go from Michigan to Tennessee or Florida to Ohio State, and being used in different systems. Does that affect you guys any, or is it, hey, we're just grinding tape?
Yeah, it's a mess. No, it's a mess. It's hard. I think one thing that's hard for us, especially, is that we have a huge focus, not only on data and analytics, but we focus a lot. Probably 70% of what we talk about a player is that player's background, and not like just interviewing them, like, hey, did they play basketball in high school? What are their parents, like all these different dynamics. We focus a lot on that. We found that's a pretty successful indicator a lot of times to at least paint the picture of who the player is in the field, right? For example, there's a kid at Princeton this year, Jalen Travis, who you see the background. His brother played basketball. He played basketball. He had a growth spurt. He did this. And then you watch him as an offensive tackle and you're like, shit, yeah, that guy clearly is a basketball player as a left tackle, right? Super athletic, can move, when you kind of focus on the background. So when guys are transferring so much, they go between area scouts and different area scouts to share notes. So it gets confusing. But I'm as pro player as anybody that works in the NFL industry, maybe more than anybody, because I think it's long overdue. And I think these issues on our end, scouting wise, whatever, because I think players in the chance to transfer to make money has been worth it for them too. And I'm thankful in this job, especially more than my previous jobs, that I talk to players 4 or 5 guys a day sometimes. And I don't talk about the Shrine Bowl. I talk about like, hey, how can I help you? Because I had that kind of gateway for a lot of these players too. And these players are smart. I think one thing I always tell people about the future of football is that a lot of high football IQ guys coming up, because these guys recognize at 15, 16 years old, how can I prepare myself for the NFL? Back even 7 years ago, 8 years ago, guys were like, I'm at Ohio State. I made it. I'm good. Nowadays, it's like, I'll go to Ohio State, but if they don't take care of me, I'll go to Texas, and then I'll go to Florida. And that's that, it seems like a diva-ish, but deep down, it's because these guys recognize what matters. So it's a sign of players becoming more sophisticated in the marketplace, and I'm for it.
No, that's great, because we do that in our jobs, right? We do that in our right. If our company doesn't take care of us, we probably are going to the next one that will. So that's awesome to hear that.
Yeah.
Hey, in speaking with the scouting aspect of this, there's the rise of these like 7-on-7, OT7, or whatever tournaments that these players are playing in high school before they get to college. I know with the NBA, like the rise of AAU didn't necessarily have a positive impact on the game in terms of like being fundamentally sound, right? It really highlighted just your athleticism, and then you take that, go to college 1 year, go to the pros. Are you seeing that same effect on the collegiate level, where the rise of these like sponsored 7-on-7 games that go on YouTube, and celebrities are involved, former players? It's just a hype machine for top level. Is that starting to like water down the completeness of players' games or anything like that?
I think what it creates is it creates a basketball problem, right? AAU's problem is that all kids now are great in isolation, but don't know a lot of basic stuff. They can do pick and roll, they can do ISO, and that's it in the NBA. And then the impressive guys, I watched NBA Summer League, like Scoot Henderson, him being a guy that can actually create as a 19-year-old is like, what's going on here, right? And I think for the NFL and in college football, it's similar, where a lot of receivers want to run 3-4 double moves, right? But they don't have the fundamental technique. And they have high football IQ. They're clearly athletic. But I think what college and any feeder program would do is develop these guys technically, right? So I think I'm excited. I'm not excited. I'm curious to see how really athletic, successful 7-on-7 receivers, when they get to college, like, can they develop as route runners, and can they be more technically sound? Because in college, especially Power 5 and then the NFL, Like you can't mess around and just be an athlete out there. And that's, I think, the difference between sometimes the NBA and the NFL is that in the NFL, guys are just so much bigger. Like you can't just like be an athlete out there, right? The best athletes out there, just Tavon Austin is a good example, not to slide on him, right? But he was super fast, super productive, but no real route definition. He gets to the NFL and it's like, I can't just run and get open. I got to actually have a move. So I hope kids that are doing more 7-on-7, especially receivers and running backs, kind of get a sense of like, I've got to have the actual technique to be successful in the NFL.
Right. And one thing you started to get to, I think I started to hear you say this, like when you're evaluating players, you mentioned family, right? And I think that also includes home life. And I've heard some coaches get to talking about how, with quarterbacks, they like the kids to come from a certain, like a 2-parent household, things like that, that are just data points in terms of the overall picture of what that player may be like mentally, emotionally, as they approach the position. Ron Rivera does the same thing. He always looks from players that come from quality backgrounds. And he will turn down players that come from maybe less, ideal situations, if you will, for players with high character, military backgrounds,
John
things
Davis.
like that. Yeah, exactly. And Emmanuel Forbes as well, because I think he finds guys that works for him. And then really those guys, that Jamin Davis is still a work in progress, but I think by and large, there's just something he really likes about that sort of quality environment character kid. Is that the same for you as well?
I think to some degree, I think I don't like ruling players out. I've seen players that come from, it's the background is not about ruling players out. It's trying to understand kind of where they're headed, right? You don't punish someone for the past, at least as an evaluator, right? If they do something illegal, is that going to be predictive of future behavior, right? If you do something illegal and you get arrested, the courts can deal with that, right? But it's like, hey, you did something wrong in college, or this was bad, or you failed the drug test. Are you going to do that in the NFL? Are you going to do something negative in the NFL? So we're always looking forward on character. And I think certainly guys that have the military background, 2-parent, that's fine too. But I think it's, if you go one step further and say, hey, this guy was a single parent household from this neighborhood, and you talk to him or in the background, like, yeah, but look what that's kind of given him, right? Sometimes negatives in your childhood make you better as a person. So I think it's always much more deep. And like I said, we focus a lot on background, a lot, as much as NFL teams. And again, a lot of ways we got to be NFL teams draft guys in April. I got to make decisions by October, right? So I got to know these guys really well and trust them. And that's why we do a lot of work on that piece as well too. So successful players that are going to be like lock NFL. I talked to a player today who was like, that guy's going to be a 10-year NFL player. His background is not military background, right? It's a different background, but he's going to make it in the NFL. So it just all depends on how these guys shape up when they're draft eligible.
That's awesome. Thank you. And thank you especially for saying that you don't rule guys out, because I think that, we should always be trying to, find another way to communicate with somebody, or to see how their experience can be valuable to us, or, to better help themselves as well too. So, all right, Commanders. I saw you tweet out something. It was last week or the week before, about Ricky Stromberg, the center that we drafted from Arkansas. I am a big offensive line person, so I love offensive linemen. I want us to draft as many as we can every year, all year. In particular, I liked Ricky Stromberg a lot. I thought he was probably the third best center, behind the other two. Everybody already knows those two particular guys. But can you tell me what your experience was like with Ricky there at the Shrine Bowl?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number top of my head. It might be 100 consecutive starts at center for Arkansas, something like that. But it was crazy about a guy who's in the SEC playing that long. And sometimes I joke that sometimes scouting is really easy. This guy has a requisite size. He's a 40-game starter in the SEC, winning against the best defensive tackles. He was consistently, highly efficient, sacks, PFF grades, whatever you want to use. Then he tested super well at the combine and the pro day. I think maybe it was pro day, which caught me off guard a little bit how well he tested. But he's a really good athlete. And he's just a solid technician, smart kid. Like, he just checks all these boxes at center. And I think sometimes people get lost in upside too much in the draft.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, when the Seahawks drafted well, right, and they had that great draft of Richard Sherman, Russell Wilson, etc., all you got to do is hit 4 draft picks. If 4 of your draft picks become starters, rotational guys, you're going to be just fine. And Ricky is a slam dunk 10-year NFL center. And if I told you after the draft, hey, I'm going to give you a center that's going to be your starting center and probably an above average one for the next decade, you'd be like, first round pick, give me that guy right now, right? We get lost in the draft sometimes. And I think Ricky was people thought, I mean, I know I saw people on Twitter that like, oh, is that a little bit too high? I think that was a steal. We saw Juice Scruggs from the Shrine Bowl go second round, another great value, but you could find a guy who's physical, who's smart enough, and who's experienced to play center and step in day one and do that in the NFL. I mean, center is one of the 3 or 4 hardest positions to find in the league right now. Center, tackle, quarterback, and probably a good corner be the 4 top positions to find. And they got one in Ricky Stromberg. So I can't say enough. And again, I think I tweeted that out, and I am not holding back. Like, that's your center for the next decade, unless he gets too expensive in 5 years and they got to, find a way to pay him enough. But now he's that good, and he'll be a staple. And I think what's important for Ricky too, the last piece is he's going to be a culture setter. He can lead in a lot of different ways. He did at Arkansas. Sometimes he's a loud guy. Sometimes he's a lead by example guy. He's a guy that players like and gravitate to. He's not going to be a force leader. In a good way, he can kind of adapt to the situation. And I think that offensive line, they've been retooling it. They'll probably continue to retool over the next couple of years. But I would be shocked if he's not one of the faces of the franchise, to be honest, despite being a center, because he's going to really set that culture in that locker room when he gets his mitts in there.
No, that's great to hear, because we have had a real bad time with center. We've gone through 4 each of the past 2 seasons. I mean,
Jeez.
it's unheard of. Like, by the end of the season, we'd be with guys that we hadn't even heard of, right? Because we just signed them that week. So that's great to hear about Ricky and his potential. And I can't wait to see him out on the field as well too. Is there anything with Ricky in terms of like kind of scheme, right? Like, we always hear this gap power type scheme or a zone run type scheme. Is he versatile in that regard, or is it, hey,
he is. I'd probably say, just because of the way he played at Arkansas, he can be a power run guy, but the way he tested athletically, I think he can do a lot of different things for them. And he's a center where I wouldn't expect them to kind of put him in space too much. Right. That's not where he thrived in college, but I think he's done, obviously his own stuff and get out in space and get around that nose tackle if he has to. He showed the athletic ability to do that too. But then as a power run defender, like, that dude is strong, he's stout, and he's going to win against really most NFL nose tackles. And that's, I think, the big thing he showed in college, I think at the Shrine Bowl, is that even going against 340, 350-pound guys, like, he's going to get pushed back a little bit in one-on-one, but he can hold his own. That you give a guard chip in the NFL, and you're going to be just fine in that A-gap as a run blocker. So I think his ability to win as a power run guy, he could do some zone stuff, but he'll do a lot of things for that offensive line. And really, I think he'll alleviate some of the pressure on guards, because I think they have some experienced guards, but I think kind of making that life easy a little bit more too. I know Cosme and I think Chris Paul will probably start with the 2 guards, and they're really athletic guys that if you can give them some space and let, Ricky just take the nose tackle or the 0 tech or the 1 tech, like, I think you make those other guards much more impressive in space a little bit.
No, that's awesome. I mean, you got me really excited when you said he could stop some of the those 350-pound guys. Because we've got a lot of them in our division. We've got Dexter Lawrence, we've got the Eagles players, and we've got our own 2 guys that he's going to have to deal with in practice every day, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. So that's awesome.
So the Shrine Bowl is seniors only. Are there exceptions made to that?
You are a redshirt junior, but you graduate in the fall of that year. You are eligible.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder if there's any, and I'm not necessarily asking you this, I'm just sort of thinking out loud here, but is there any data relative to the bus rate for people that stay in college the extra year versus those that come out as like true juniors or something like that? That's something I'd be interested in. I don't know if you guys
I will say this, it's generally, if you are good enough to be a draft pick, players should lean towards coming out. There's exceptions based off of injury or quarterbacks. As like quarterback is a little bit more like, this year, for example, if you're a really good quarterback, but you're not Drake Mayer or Caleb Williams, you're not going to go first overall. You're going to go at best 5th, 6th overall, right? So quarterback's a little more, but there are some studies we've done on those, but a lot of guys stay in school, which is fine. But I think generally, if you're going to be a draft pick and you can bet on yourself and you're healthy coming out, makes a lot more sense.
Got it. Yeah. Do you, and I don't know if you answer this or not, but when during the draft season, are you guys part of that consultation process with NFL teams as well on these prospects? I would imagine so.
Yeah, it's pretty collaborative. It's fun, and I just actually got drinks with the NFL college calendar the other day, and we were sharing some notes too. And it's meant to be collaborative because in some ways, I want to make sure that we're having players teams want to see, but also again, we're making decisions on our NFL draft is late October. Right. We got to be early on guys too. So sometimes we're ahead of where teams are at and we're kind of constantly sharing notes. And, again, we want to have guys that teams want to see, but just by and this is the pressure we put on ourselves. If we invite a player to the Shrine Bowl, 32 GMs are going to watch that guy closely and write that player up. That player, just by us inviting him, is more likely to be drafted than he's not. So it's a lot of pressure on us to do that. So we work with NFL teams closely to try to find the best 125, 130 guys that we can invite to the Shrine Bowl and give those guys a chance to enjoy their experience. That's important to me, but also impress NFL teams on and off the field all week long.
Do you see agents advising ever players, hey, I don't like, do agents ever want like less tape on their players to be out there? And so like they're afraid they'll get exposed in a game like what you guys put together? Or is that
sometimes? I think sometimes, I mean, agents wouldn't say that out loud. I think and I get that. I mean, hey, I don't think you should, right? But I think there's a chance that there's some really good players in college should consider not playing. We saw Jamar Chase not play, and he's just doing fine, right? So sometimes it's good to kind of not risk injury as well as not hurt yourself. But I think one thing I care about is that we're going to set players up for success. And I think last year, if I really had to talk to teams about it, maybe 3 or 4 guys really hurt their stock, which is a bummer. And I don't want to have that happen to guys. And I think some of those guys were either out of shape or whatever else, but I don't want guys to go down. But a lot of times guys go up. And one of the benefits of an all-star game like this is, you know, for example, we had a guy, I mentioned Juice Scruggs earlier, right? Juice Scruggs hadn't played center at Penn State for the last 2 years, I think. And then he played center for us. He could snap, boom, stock goes up, right? Not because he played well or didn't play well, because he showed something different. I think that's really important. We had a guy, Kaz Allen, who's in training camp with you guys.
Oh, yeah.
And he got a chance to return at the Shrine Bowl, which he did in college, but also play some receiver and running back. And I think the teams, especially the Commanders, always interested in Kaz because of how fast he is. And the fact they showed the Shrine Bowl, hey, he can play some slot, he can play some running back, and he's a good returner. So Andre Jones, another example, too. He did some stand-up stuff. He was a 7th-round pick for you guys from the Shrine Bowl. He did some stand-up at the week of the Shrine Bowl and put his hand in the dirt and got a chance to play around with different positions to show NFL teams what he can do. So those are just 3 of the guys. I think you have some more guys from the Shrine Bowl last year, but those are 3 guys that used the Shrine Bowl to increase their draft stock without hurting somebody else.
Yeah.
Awesome. Before I ask you about one of the players from last year that we took from the Shrine Bowl, how do you guys juggle? Like, you have the week of the game or the day of the game. You've got all these NFL teams in there, scouts, GMs, whoever, coaches. How do you juggle? Do you guys set up like meetings to where they can meet with each player, or how does all that work? Is it a free for all, like one player?
No, it's not. Yeah, I'll be honest. It used to be a free for all, and I think even 5-6 years ago, most All-Star games were kind of a free for all. And again, my focus has always been on I want to support NFL teams. I want to make sure our players have a good experience too. So we have the most structured interview time of any All-Star game by at least 2 times. So our players have a lot of time with NFL teams, which is important because they can be structured. They're not overworked. They can interview well. They can impress NFL teams, and all of our NFL teams talk to every single player at the Shrine Bowl for at least 15 minutes, and they can get more time if they need to as well too. So one of my focuses is having guys that leave the Shrine Bowl. And we had 4 or 5 teams that told me last year, every guy at the Shrine Bowl, we didn't have to talk to them again in the draft process because we were good. We got everything we had to do at the Shrine Bowl. So no, the interviews are, in my mind, more important. I don't want to blow smoke. It's more important than the on-field stuff sometimes. Because it gets players a chance not only to talk to NFL teams, but make their draft process way easier, right? If you're go to the Shrine Bowl and you talk to 32 teams and like 25 of them are like, we're good, we know who you are, we like you, we're set. Your combine, you got 7 interviews, not 32, right? So it makes your life a lot easier. So we put a lot of focus there, and I think it's a huge benefit for our players to come to the Shrine Bowl. And it's huge for guys like Ricky because there are teams that gave, as an example, right? There's teams that gave Ricky mid-round grades. They considered him, but they didn't need a center. But they're like, this guy's awesome. This guy's going to be, again, a 10-year NFL center. Screw if we don't need a guy. We like that guy for sure. So it's, Tim DeMorat, a quarterback from Fordham, right? Small school guy. A lot of GMs maybe didn't know who he was in season, but you meet Tim. He's got the mustache. He got a big smile. He's hilarious. He's a great kid. And they're like, all right, and then you look at this, and then this, the GMs who, again, haven't watched film all season, they meet the kid. He's great. He knows ball, he knows scheme, and he put up like 50 touchdowns or 60, whatever he put out the senior season in college. Those guys impressed. Armani Rogers from 2 years ago, good example too. He used the interview process. He's like, I'm going to play tight end here and impress teams in the interview room, and then impressed on the field. And boom, he was going to be, a late round pick, and now he's a PFA. And bummer what happened to him, but he's going to be a heck of an NFL player for a long time. So just some examples there about the interview process sometimes matters more than the on-field stuff.
Oh, that's great. And Armani Rogers was one of the guys I was going to ask you about. Because,
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'll ask about him. Like we saw him, we heard, converted quarterback, and then, we thought, okay, this is going to be a project. He's going to look kind of out of place. And we first see him in game action, and he catches the ball cleanly. He's not fighting it, and he's turning upfield. You're like, wait, did he just really switch to tight end? Is that something you guys saw right away? Because I think when he came to the Shrine Bowl, was that the first time he played tight end?
Ever in his life. Yeah. I'll take some credit. That was a ballsy move to be like, hey, you're going to be one of our 6 tight ends in the game, so don't mess this up. But he's a great kid, and he worked his butt off. And I'll give Terrell Gaines a lot of credit. He worked with him on combine testing, and he tested really well. I think he had a cold in his pro day. He was going to be in the 99th percentile across the board, but he's a ridiculous athlete. I'm sure you guys saw. But his ability to really develop as a tight end, as a hands catcher, and again, he's a guy that's going to be. He was always going to take 2-3 years to figure out the routes to be successful in the NFL. But I think they did a great job in just, hey, let's just win on these couple routes, right? Let's win in the seam, let's win on the corner route, and let's win on the hitch and underneath stuff. And he's mastered those at a really high level. And he came in day one and made me look really smart because he was crushing the Shrine Bowl practice. And he went from why the heck did the Shrine Bowl invite this guy to is this guy going to screw around and get drafted despite, having, I think he had like maybe 30 or 40 pass attempts in the last 2 years, no tight end snaps, and like, who is this guy? And we took a chance, and Armani made it work. And I think he'd be a better version of what Logan Thomas became. I think that's how good he's going to be as a quarterback tight end convert.
So that's great to hear. And there were a lot of high hopes for him this year until I think mini camp or OTAs where he got hurt. So we'll be looking for him next season. But that's awesome to hear.
And one guy didn't bring up from the Shrine Bowl from 2 years ago too was my guy Percy Butler.
That was my guy. I was going to ask you.
So special teams ace. He'll be at the worst, he'll be a rotational NFL safety for a long time, but like should be a star for them as well too. But I think he's going to be again a long time mainstay, different than Ricky, but guys like him who can play 3 special teams and play them really, really well. He had the highest grade special teams grade for us and for a lot of NFL teams 2 years ago. So he'll do that for a long time. He can play both safety spots. And I know he's competing for a starting job. You got a lot of good young safeties there as well, too. But he's a heck of a player. And I think he was a great value in the 4th round to have a guy who, again, he's going to play 10 years in the NFL. It's hard to find those guys in round 4.
Yeah, he did really well on special teams his first year, and he got his start at the last game against Dallas at the end of the season. One of the things I noticed about him during the draft process, watching some of his games, and please tell me if this is what you saw or if there's something more, he showed a burst. Like when he identified where the ball was going while it's in the air, there was a burst to close on the football and disrupt it, knock it down, intercept it, tackle the guy. But there was just that recognition, and then boom, he was right there right after the football.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a freak athlete, and I think you'd probably agree with that. Yeah, but when he identifies the play really well, and he has a good feel for what you're doing on that play, right? Hey, it's a running back on a pitch play, make the tackle, force him out of bounds. Hey, it's going to be an underneath receiver. Don't go for the ball, go for the tackle. Hey, it's going to be a play in the air, go for the ball, and after the guy catches it, knock it away. Like he's got that really smart football instincts that you really want in a safety, especially a guy like him who, again, he can play some free, some strong, some nickel as well. And to play all those different spots and still have the wherewithal and the instincts to know how to attack a ball carrier or a pass catcher, that's really hard to do, right? It sounds easy, but you see receiver coming across the middle. I don't know about you guys. I'd be like, I got to hit that guy real fast. But he's like, no, I'm going to time it so he's going to catch it, knock it out of his hands and go through him. Or I'm going to, hit him a little bit early so he bobbles a little bit. I'm going to wait till he catches it because I'm not going to make a play on the ball. And stuff like that is what Percy has that a lot of NFL safeties don't. And that's why he'll be around for a long, long time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Man, this has been great. I appreciate you. And, hopefully we hear about KJ Jefferson soon. I saw he's on your list of 1,000 players to watch.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Jr.
KJ Jefferson is Ellie's favorite player. So if you have any kind of insights or thoughts on KJ,
I just talked to Arkansas's program today about KJ and a couple of their guys, Bo Limmer and Brady Latham, their offensive linemen, and a couple of their DBs for next year as well too. So it's top of mind. And KJ is really impressive. I mean, he's not small by nature, but he does flash some smaller Cam Newton type stuff that he can do. And I think his ability to finish throws when he's off balance, when the play breaks down so easily is like, that's pretty rare. And he's gotten so much better over the course of the last 2-3 years, winning from the pocket and making the easy throws. I joke sometimes a lot of NFL throws are, probably 60% are pretty easy for quarterbacks, right? RPOs, quick screens. So having a quarterback that doesn't mess those up, that's actually a huge positive nowadays. And you need guys that can make those throws consistently and not mess up screens, quick slants, which KJ, I think, has done a really good job with. I think winning from the pocket, when that first read's not there, he's gotten better at that. But for me, one of the biggest things we look out for, and that's what guys like Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Brock Purdy, we had the Shrine Bowl 2 years ago. That's one of my guys, right? They have the ability to improvise when the play breaks down, because that's where quarterbacks make their money. Whether you're Tom Brady and doing the subtle steps in the pocket and making a throw, or whether you're Pat Mahomes, you got to be able to improvise when the play's not there. And I think that's what KJ has flashed a lot. And I'm excited for him this season, because if he's going to be a top 100 pick, a top 2-round guy like he has the talent to be, he's got to make plays when they're not there this year. He can, he's flashed it, but I think if he starts creating those plays and Arkansas messes around and gets 9-10 wins this year, he'll be a guy NFL teams want to look for in the top 2-3 rounds.
Awesome.
Look at that.
The only other thing that I'll ask you about is DC. We've got our own quarterback controversy or competition, or maybe it's not a competition. I don't know. Do you know or have any thoughts about Sam Howell?
I do have thoughts on Sam Howell. I think he has one of the best deep ball touches of the last couple of years in the draft. That's his, I say all the time, to be an NFL starting quarterback, you've got to have some kind of superpower. And he's got one of those. That deep ball touch, moving out of the pocket, in the pocket, is really special. And it's really important for when you have guys like Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, and Terry McLaurin, who can get vertical on most corners in the NFL. So I think his skill set really matches their receiver room really well. And he's definitely a good athlete. He showed the ability to run as well as scramble and move out to the pocket too. But I think for him, it's going to be, again, making those consistent, easy throws, getting the tight end involved, checking out our running backs, and not making mistakes. And that's going to be hard. I think obviously Jacoby wants to challenge that starting job. So I think he'll play some mentor role. But I think if you're the Commanders, with all the talent they have at the skill positions, having a quarterback who's not going to mess up plays, who's going to make it 3rd and 3, not 3rd and 10, that's why I think they want to see out of Sam Howell in the preseason, this offseason. So I think if he can be really consistent on those 50, 60% of throws that he has to make to kind of keep the offense moving, he's going to be able to finish those downfield throws to Dotson, Samuel, and McLaurin. He's got that deep ball touch that not a lot of quarterbacks have the last couple of years. So I think that's going to be his best way to not only win the job, but also be the quarterback for the future too. And I know they've got Sam, Jacoby, Jake Fromm is there, my guy Tim DeMorat. I wouldn't be surprised if they had somebody else at some point. If Sam's not doing well, there's some quarterbacks out there that via trade or in free agency that could be available as well too. But I think everyone in that Commanders locker room knows, hey, we've got a lot of skill talent. We've got a good young O-line. We've got a new owner coming in, right? Like, we can't mess around and go 7 and not 8 this year, whatever it is, 8 and 9. I know the 17 games messed me up, right? 8 and 9. We've got to go, 10 and 6, 10 and 7, whatever this record is, to make the playoffs. So I think they're going to give Sam Howell a lot of chances, but if they're not feeling early on, don't be surprised if they make a move to either trade for somebody or sign somebody else to bring some competition in, because they've got too many weapons. I mean, having 3 good receivers, 2 to 3 good running backs, a decent offensive line, a tight end room that's strong, like, you got to make a move this year. And I'm curious to see if that's Sam Howell or somebody else at the helm.
Yeah, you nailed it. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Appreciate it, guys.
We appreciate you giving us a few minutes. This is awesome. Thanks so much. And can you tell everybody, I guess, where to find you, or if they want to follow along and see what's going on with the Shrine Bowl? Yeah,
follow me at Eric Galko on Twitter, at Shrine Bowl on Twitter as well too. And again, if you're an NFL draft junkie, like I think a lot of people are in the business, Shrine Bowl 1000 is going to be a great way to start watching film this season, right? Start saying, hey, I'm going to watch Texas. Who should I watch? Log into Shrine Bowl 1000. You want to watch Arkansas? Log into Shrine Bowl 1000, see the Arkansas guys, and start breaking those guys down by film too. So we hope this can kind of be a draft fans appetizer to start the season for sure too. And I'll be around doing a lot of content about the Shrine Bowl 1000 too on social media. So hopefully everyone can follow along too. And good luck to you guys this year.
We appreciate you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
And man,
Thanks,
great stuff. We'll see you in the future. See ya.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.